Alright guys, such coming again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. Cheating drama potentially re-emerging going into the World Championship. SlasheR revealing that the Gentleman's Agreements chat right now is a complete mess, especially when it comes to single tap to run. Some of the features in the game that have caused mass controversy ever since Warzone came out. SlasheR believes there are some seriously good players in this league that are abusing this mechanic against the rules technically that the pros have come up with to gain a competitive advantage. What does this mean for champs? Is everybody gonna turn it on? Very much into your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. Couple of Lionman Cards to go through as we start the video out here. This is Boston. They had a very difficult stage. The last couple of stages, they've been good in the qualifiers. They've been top 6 in the majors. And that was enough to get them to champs. This stage, though, was pretty woeful from start to finish. They started in losers, and they finished in losers. They lost to the Minnesota Rocker in the first round. Snoopy has undoubtedly been one of the most improved players of the entire season. You know, even this stage where the whole team was bad, he was still fine. He was still respectable. Big Wake's got a bit better as well. But, yeah, tough stage from Purj, and also a tough stage from Cammy as well. I mean, Cammy's such an interesting player because, like, I know you guys will probably agree with this. Whenever you watch a Cammy POV, you're like, damn, this guy's frying, right? Like, he's hitting unreal shots. And he had that 1v5 this stage in control on Hacienda Control, which was just godlike. But, I don't know, Cammy just can't seem to consistently put it together into, like, great numbers since Cold War, really. Because, I don't know, it's so interesting. Like, you watch Cammy, like, wow, this guy's really talented. The POV, like, the eye test, for sure checks out, but the numbers don't always check out. So anyway, that was Boston's stage. They've got to hope these guys lock in a bit more because they've shown some promise this year. They've done pretty well at times, but they've not, been able to really get over the hump. And I doubt they're going to be able to do so for the World Championship. Kind of typical in a way. They just stuck with the roster. But I think this kind of proves where, sometimes if the roster isn't capable of winning, you're going to see that relatively early on, right? Because, and it's not like no one ever said Boston were going to win anything, but the point is that they've stuck with their team this year rather than blowing it up every 2 weeks as they did last year. And it's been more successful for them, not blowing it up, right? They've stuck with a system, they've stuck with a roster, they've made it to the World Championship, which is a respectable outcome. But they did finish the 8th seed in the end, going into champs after OpTic made a bit of a run up to the 7th seed. And that means they will play Thieves in the first round, which is not really where you want to be. But they still made it to the World Championship, which is better than what they managed last year. But I do still think it's true that within the first couple of stages, we saw what this team was capable of, and that was, top 6. Maybe if the bracket fell nicely, they could have got to a Sunday, right? But, in all things considered, we saw the potential of this team, and that's what we've basically had for the rest of the year. And since then, it's been difficult for them to get any better. If anything, they've only got worse. Another team, of course, that's only getting worse is the Ravens. A very difficult stage for SlasheR individually. His actual KDs weren't horrific, but he was just slow, right? SlasheR slow, as people say, which historically isn't really true. Like, SlasheR throughout his career has not been a slow AR. Like, was he slower than Clay? Yeah, but Clay was rapid, and but he was faster than Octane. But this stage has been a tricky one for a number of players. TJ was actually, by the numbers, still their best player, certainly in Search and Destroy. That remains true. Are we surprised? It's TJ in Search and Destroy, one of the best ever Search and Destroy players we have seen. Gwyn, though, has fallen off quite a lot. I don't know if there's a little bit of, I don't know, the team's frustrated or fed up or just not in the right headspace or something, because Gwyn had a difficult stage by his standards. I wouldn't say that Gwyn looked like he didn't want to be there, but I wouldn't say that it was far off, really. Like, I don't know, that team, we talked to Vivid about it on the couch at the watch party at the major, and Vivid was like, because he got dropped, right? Vivid got dropped for Rex, and in hindsight, people are going to say, oh, it was a bad decision because they dropped Vivid once again, the team gets worse, here they are top 12, and fair enough. But Vivid basically told us that team was chalked. Like, internally, they knew they weren't very good, like, the chemistry wasn't great, and Vivid basically told us on the couch that something was going to change, and whether that was Vivid going or whether that was somebody else going, something was going to change. So Vivid wasn't really, of course he was probably kind of frustrated, but he wasn't really shocked because he felt that, yeah, the team just wasn't clicking as they used to, and something was going to give. And the thing that gave was Vivid. And Rex has come in, and Rex actually, this stage was okay. Like, 81 cards, not bad at all. But he didn't really improve the team, and that's still what we've seen. Their respawn is still bad. Their search and destroy, respectable, but not as good as it was, of course, at the start of the season, which is why top 12 has come into the equation. But they were good at the start of the year, and that was enough to get them to the World Championship, of course, and we will be seeing them there relatively shortly. They are the 6th seed. They play Toronto in the first round, which is definitely could be worse, but SlasheR will need to turn it around for the World Championship, to be fair, as he usually does. SlasheR had a tough stage. I think he was unwell for some time, and also, as he mentioned to us on the couch as well, that his play online was not great, but he turned up to LAN. They played one series, but he had like a 1.15, and SlasheR was still of the opinion that this online COD stuff is just not even real. So, LAN COD, I think SlasheR will deliver at the World Championship, but into your thoughts in the comments below. This I thought was pretty cool. Karma just put this out there. Back in 2008, I was a bit of a frog, and here he is in the Ottawa Lions long jump championship, right? So, 2008, how old would Karma have been then? 15 or so, something like that. But yeah, here he was in the long jump championship in all the different schools locally, and he won it, which I thought was pretty cool to see. There's also a talking point though around the all-star team. So people can vote on this: 4 ARs, 4 SMGs to make the first and the second team. And look, who's going to make it this year? I know there was some talk about this because Shotzzy, for the entirety of the CDL, has been on the all-star teams, right? So in 2020 and 2021, he was named an all-star. He was also, of course, MVP for the first season where they won the World Championship. He was the all-star first team in Vanguard. He was the all-star second team in MW2. He was the all-star second team in MW3. But this year, that, maybe unlikely to continue. I wouldn't say that it necessarily would. I mean, Shotzy's been pretty, the entire OpTic team has been underwhelming this year. Maybe Huke could make it, maybe Dashy could make it, but yeah, as it stands, I don't think that Shotzzy is going to be there, which is, surprising. I think that Shotzzy on his day is absolutely all-star, superstar, whatever you want to say, but yeah, this season has not really been it, but that's been true for top to bottom from the OpTic team at the moment. But a recent promise at Major 4 shows that they could potentially turn it around into the World Championship. I do wonder, we talked Rostermania earlier today, whether some of the other teams that are not at the World Championship will blow it up, right? Because let's say your Falcons, you go to the World Cup, that's really the big event. I mean, we said it before the start of the season that for the Falcons, they will want to make sure they are competitive at the World Cup. That is, if anything, that's going to be their goal. They were never realistically going to qualify for champs with the team they initially fielded, and even with the new team they formed, they still barely got any more points on the board anyway. Exnid and Pred, they're not going to be going anywhere, right? The question really is around the ARs, whether they might make a change in that department, what Clay could cook up for the World Cup, because they've got quite some time. The World Cup is in the middle of July, so they've got roughly 5-6 weeks to field the roster, but I imagine there is some sort of roster deadline which maybe has already happened, but I imagine in the relatively near future, if they wanted to make a change, they potentially could. Maybe ideally you'd even wait until after champs and sign somebody else there, but realistically that's not going to happen. So if they are going to make a change, they're going to have to make it relatively swiftly, potentially among even the other teams that didn't make it to the World Championship. Could Falcons go out there and say, you know what, Kenny, you want to come in for champs or for the World Cup? Maybe, I don't know. Something to at least think about here. Even some sort of loan relationship could be possible. I mean, you got Cloud9. They're out as well. Could they go, could Falcons go to C9 and say, hey, we'll pay you a load of money and we want Sib on loan, potentially with the option to sign him full-time next year if we do well at the World Cup? Maybe. When Falcons are involved, I wouldn't count anything out. And as we know, that Sib-Pred partnership was successful back in their day, and on, of course, the Seattle Surge team, especially in Vanguard. So maybe there's something in that, right, for the off-season, or potentially for now. I wouldn't completely rule out the possibility there. So tweet your thoughts in the comments below. Of course, we talked about the Ravens. TJ's getting some Charlton to try and improve. I mentioned with regard to HyDra the other day that this was true, but it's also true for Sender, which I think is worthy of note. It was a question we raised on the watch party this past weekend: who's the greatest coach in COD? And well, obviously a few names come to mind. Some of the FaZe guys are certainly up there given their success, Rambo and some others, but look, Sender has to be in the conversation. Sender might statistically be the GOAT, actually. Not even statistically, I mean more compared, what he's achieved compared to the teams that he's had and stuff like that. Sender's right up there for sure from a coaching department, because it's true that HyDra won Major 5 Toronto, Modern Warfare 2, Major 4 Burbank, MW3, and BO6 Dallas, Major 4 as well, 2025. But that's also been true for Sender, who's been coaching him the whole time, either on New York and now on the Thieves as well. All 3 of those finals were against FaZe. every team, of course, here so far went to the Champs Grand Final. So it is very notable, and we've said it before, and it continues to be a very true phenomenon, that the team that wins the final event, or the team that is good at the final event, almost always one of the teams in the grand finals of the final event of the season is also going to be in the grand finals of the World Championship. It almost always happens like that. There's very, very few examples that hasn't happened. So, and look, it wouldn't be a shock, would it, right? Like, you're telling me that Thieves or FaZe are going to be in grand finals of Champs? Wow, what a revelation. But the point is that, it's really important to be good at the final event of the season, because it means a lot going into the final event of the season, which is actually the World Championship in the postseason, technically, and then we've got the World Cup after that. This season, though, there are meta changes. They're changing the new patch update, right? Going into Champs. That could change things, but I think Cinder deserves some credit. The other clip, though, that I really wanted to share for you guys was this. So here was SlasheR when he spent some time with us on the show, and we were talking about a few things. The GA chat, the game not being the same nowadays. And, well, he talked about a few things in the meta, but the main thing that he was discussing was single tap to run, single tap to sprint, whatever you want to say. Effectively means you press the button one time and you go into tactical sprints on your left-hand side, on your left-hand stick. Now, auto-tac sprints was an option when Warzone first came out, MW19. Kremp actually ran it for some time before getting caught, and, he kind of did it to prove that it was very difficult to prove that anyone was actually using it. We've seen various accusations around this. Abuzah last year, Scrappy thought was doing it. Other players as well. There's been accusations behind the scenes that maybe some of the Spaniards were doing it on, of course, the Miami team. But SlasheR says that, yeah, technically the pros have banned this setting. They think that it reduces the skill gap, and therefore the pros have agreed that this is not going to be used. However, I do remember that, there was even a funny story when Lutey, who used to be working with the Falcons, he used to kind of be the GA commissioner in Europe. He put together a list of the GAs, and he didn't include on that list single tap. So there were questions, therefore, whether Falcons were using it. And look, SlasheR doesn't name names, but he says that as far as he's concerned, there are good players that are technically breaking the rules.
The pistol is broken. It doesn't get talked about.
The GA chat isn't what it used to be.
Nah,
are you in the chat?
Yeah, but it's a waste of time. Bro, the single tap run or whatever is GA'd. It has been GA'd for years, but I just know people are running it. Yeah. And I know people have been running it in the past few years. Like, good people have been running it, so it's like, what is even the point anymore? Were they just all cheating? Like, okay.
Yeah. Now, of course, the rules that they're breaking, if they are not official league rules, so who cares, right? Like, that might be the perspective of many. The league doesn't care. You single tap to run all you like. That's not a big deal as far as the CDL are concerned, because this is not a rule that they have implemented. This is something the pros have come up with, but the pros rule set, SlasheR believes, there are players cheating the system. He's trying to be legit, he's trying to do it properly as they implied, but other players aren't. And this is how it happens, right? Like, one player either uses it or doesn't use it, and then somebody thinks, were they doing that? Is that what I just saw there? And then they're like, well, screw it, if they're using it, I'm going to chuck single tap to run on as well, and then everyone starts to use it. So SlasheR reckons that there are some good players in this league that are, and at the end of the day, you're at the World Championship with multiple millions of dollars on the line. Turn on a setting that gives you a slight advantage that nobody even knows if you're using or not for sure, because the CDL don't care to even check it, in addition to the fact that you can't really even tell whether somebody's using it or not, especially if they're really talented and they've got phenomenal movement. So who do you think that he's referring to? Intrigued to your thoughts as ever in the comments below. What does it mean for Champs? Are we going to start to see the teams really just, step up now and everyone starts to use it? Intrigued to your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.
So I'm in the shower. Dick hanging, not too low of course, but it's there. I have my phone in the top right corner of the shower, clear of the water path, but easy enough access to change the music. So I'm showered, I'm lathering my body in soap, and I get a DM. And it's from a very good-looking female in the community. Keep in mind, I'm like, I have no chance, but I'm verified and I have Yeezys. This is before I was on OpTic too. So I'm verified and I have Yeezys. So I must have a chance. So I sprint out of the shower because I had to read the DM. So I still got soap on my body. I open the phone. She says, hey, and my face lights up. She goes, do you think you can get FaZe Temper to follow me? And that's how my life goes. Hope you guys enjoyed the story.